Welcome to How Do They Afford That, the podcast that peeks into the financial lives of everyday Australians. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm a writer and co-host of the Fear and Greed Business Podcast. As always, I'm with Canna Campbell, previously a financial planner, now the founder of Sugar Mama TV, the financial literacy platform covering YouTube, podcasts, books, Instagram, and more. Canna, have you had a big week?
I have nothing wildly exciting to report, but I am burning question I have for you.
Oh. Sorry, I shouldn't sound so down on that, but it just worries
I'm not
me.
going to cross-examine you. It's okay.
It just feels like I'm going to be put on the spot a little bit. But go ahead.
I'd love to know what you have learnt, or maybe what benefit you've taken on from all the topics of money and budgets and cash flow and insurance and banking products and mortgages and debt. Like, we talk a lot about money. Have you had any benefits in listening to all of this?
Have I been listening? Yes, I have been listening. And have I implemented? Yes, I have.
Ooh, okay.
I have. And look, the thing that I think has been the most interesting for me has been the budgeting system that you went through, which is, look, I would highly encourage you to go back and have a listen, because the budgeting system is just, it simplifies everything. I have confessed to you previously that we have a lot of accounts, a lot of bank accounts.
A lot.
18 bank accounts across 1, 2, 3, 4 banks. And it is not the most efficient system. It is a system that's kind of worked for us over a long period of time, but could work a lot better. So we have started implementing the budget. And even just the process of going back through spending and kind of identifying what is being spent on what and what frequency and basically how much, just even that process has helped us kind of focus on where we need to be putting our attention. And then one of the things really I think that we've realised was a bit of a shock was how much we're spending on groceries every week.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it is, for 1 week, that was not a standout week. There was no big kind of dinner party or anything like that. No kids' birthday parties. And I think we exceeded our grocery budget by about 50% in that week. And that was a real shock, actually, to realize that we had blown out that budget by so much without realizing it and without that much to show for it as well. So look, without trying to start on too much of a downer, I am working through our finances and using kind of some of the information that we're learning here to try and kind of streamline things a little bit, because they are probably a little bit messy at the moment. One thing I did do this week was cancel one, not of my bank accounts, I still have 18, but cancel one of the streaming services that we have, because I think I mentioned previously that we have pretty much all of the streaming services and we only have one TV. So it's not as though we're going to be kind of watching multiple, but we finally cancelled one. Just one. It's
How
a
did
start.
that feel?
It felt really good. It felt good for one thing because I didn't miss the renewal date. Usually I would kind of set myself a reminder, make sure you cancel this before the renewal, and then it renews and I'm stuck with it for another year. I actually remembered this time and I went into it and I cancelled it. And it felt really good. I haven't missed it yet.
My second question is, what have you done with that money you've freed up? Let's say it was $20 per month or $10 per month. Where is that money now going?
Well, at the moment, it's going to pay the grocery bill that blew out by 50%. But what I think we had realised was this was one of those expenses that we need to cut back, because to some extent we were almost living beyond our means.
Okay.
Not quite, but it meant that there wasn't much fat in the budget. There wasn't much kind of...
There's no buffer.
No. And so this is going to help to build that buffer and to help save for holidays and things like that. So just little kind of bits and pieces like that.
That's why I recommend everyone, when they do their budget, they round everything up to the nearest $10 or $100 or adds a standard 10% there to allow that comfort zone for when there are blowouts where the grocery bill does exceed what it normally would be.
Yeah.
But once you've got, I guess, a better handle of your budget and the cash flow, and you can see that, actually, no, we're not having, if we have a blowout, we're still managing to find other fat to trim to cover that hole.
Yeah.
You could increase your mortgage repayment by $10 per month.
Yeah.
So, and that would help
And naturally, that was the other thing, that why we've kind of been focusing so much on reviewing expenses at the moment is because every month, really, for the last 6 months, the cost of the mortgage has been going up and up and up and up and up. And then you add into that the cost of, say, the power bill as well. And suddenly it means that you need to find those things that you can cut back so that you can pay for the things that you can't cut back necessarily. And really, the household bills is what I want to talk to you about today. And this has been a very long preamble, and I feel
very valuable, I feel.
Well, yes, it feels like people are living my finances at the moment, and it's actually almost a little bit uncomfortable because 18 accounts across 4 banks is not something that you really want people to know about, because it's not the most efficient system. But I feel like if I can learn something from you, others can probably learn something from my mistakes that I've been making. Household bills we want to talk about. But before we get to that, please know that as you are listening today, anything we talk about is always general in nature. It is never personal, investment, strategic, or product advice. It is purely for financial education purposes only.
We don't know anything about your financial situation, goals, deadlines, or even your risk profile. So should anything be of interest to you that we talk about and you think, hey, I wonder if I should be doing this for myself, that is when you must go and speak with a financial planner and ask them for personal advice based around your own financial situation and financial goals.
Household bills, I really think we'll focus on kind of the power bill, because this year that has been one of the biggest things to hit the household budget. And I'm not just speaking for me, I'm speaking for a lot of people, where bills have been rising, and not just by kind of 10% or 20%. Like the costs associated with powering your house, just keeping the lights on, have just been astronomical this year. So how much more are we paying now than we used to? It feels like a lot.
It can be quite frightening because you see that direct debit come out of your account, or some people might pay for it on a credit card, and all of a sudden it's substantially more than what you're used to seeing. You think, hang on, well, there's got to be a mistake here. That can't be right, because it is so much more.
Yeah.
But the good thing is there's actually a lot of different things you can do to try and take back control of your power bills. A lot of things that people don't even realize you can do.
And I suppose... I love to kind of categorize things, don't I? There are a few
in your
things.
18 bank accounts, yes.
Yes, apparently that is a personality trait then. But I think that there are things that you can do kind of at home in terms of saving energy and kind of reducing your usage. But there's also things that you can do externally in terms of shopping around.
Oh, yeah.
But also conversations that you can have with your electricity retailer as to how you kind of pay your bill, and also the different plan that you can go on with them as well. So we'll get to a few of those ones. Let's start with the retailer then. I was having a bit of a look around on some of their websites, and just even kind of changing the way you pay your bill, that instead of paying quarterly, which can just be an absolutely massive whack to the budget, that if you were to ask them to go on a more frequent billing cycle or kind of make regular payments to it, would certainly be easier to budget, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. You know what? I've always paid, and we cover this in that budgeting podcast, I've always treated my quarterly bills monthly. So, for example, our water bill, which is a quarterly bill, I actually pay monthly. I've never been in trouble by Sydney Water. They haven't complained yet. But I always did this with my electricity provider. And then it turned out not that long ago, they brought in a monthly plan. So I don't have to now do this being naughty. I can actually pay my electricity and gas bill on a monthly basis. And it's so much easier because there's consistency, which means it's one less thing to have to kind of juggle and move about when it comes to the family budget. So it's a great solution. And there's so many different plans as well.
We actually almost need to take a little bit of a step back and get an understanding of how the power bill is kind of put together, because there's actually 2 components of it, aren't there? There's the supply charge, which is kind of nothing that you can really do about that necessarily. That's almost a fixed kind of cost. The usage charge is the other part, and that's the variable, isn't it? Because that comes down to how much power you use.
Yes.
As the name would suggest. It is a usage charge. It is based on your usage. So really, you kind of look at them as a whole, or should you kind of look at it as 2 parts and go, this is the usage, this is what I should be focusing on, I can't do anything about the supply charge. Then there are these other things called, I've been doing a lot of research, as you will hear, standing offers and market offers. And market offers are basically what you can shop around for and go to different retailers. Am I right so far, or have I just kind of spouted off a whole stack of stuff that isn't quite right?
No, that is just spot on.
Okay, so how do you do that then? If you want a market, if you want to get a better offer, how do you do it? Is it about just going to websites for different for rival companies, getting on the phone, making some calls, and is this kind of a standing offer or a market offer kind of the rate you're actually going to get? Kind of you've got to read the fine print, all of this stuff.
Look,
if I sound confused, it's because I actually am a little bit. Power bills can be really, really kind of confusing.
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
Look, what I recommend is obviously jumping on some of the comparison websites because you can quickly see which ones stand out as being excellent value for money. But then jumping on the phone is incredibly valuable. What I have seen advertised online has been very different to what I've got over the phone. And I remember talking to my energy provider because I was thinking about leaving them because I had found a better deal. But in speaking to them over the phone, they offered me an incredible deal by staying with them. So when you've got a human on the phone, you're talking to them, and obviously we all know the cost to business of finding a new customer versus retaining an existing customer, you'd be surprised. And that person went through our energy usage and helped me work out a better plan. And I spoke to them about, and this is actually when I discovered that they had this new monthly payment option.
Yeah.
And I was able to switch it all over and save money. So look online for preliminary research, but never underestimate the power of a human being at the end on the phone and seeing what they can do for you.
I compared plans on a website, energymadeeasy.gov.au. Obviously, it's a government site. And some of the information that you can get is really quite incredible. And it feels like it's apples for apples kind of thing. It feels like it's more transparent. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's great that's what you say. Comparison sites is a good place to start. Get an idea of kind of what
the going rate is and how it works.
It kind of gives you the ammunition you need then for your phone call. So that when you pick up the phone, you can say, I have seen a better deal elsewhere. What can you do to match it? And then you're not kind of just going in blindly.
And if the consultant knows you've done your research, they're not going to pull the wool over your eyes. And not to discredit energy providers at all, but you've got, as you say, more ammunition, you've got more bargaining power, and you're a more empowered customer, and you therefore can make a decision that's right for you.
I want to talk to you in a minute about kind of how you can kind of reduce the actual cost in terms of
that's really important.
Reducing the consumption for it. But first, kind of ask you about the budget side of this. How big a buffer should you be leaving in your budget for power, considering it's been rising so much lately that I know we talk about kind of rounding up the amount that you're budgeting every week or every month for an expense like this? Is it kind of wise to maybe do a little bit more, knowing what you see? And if you read the paper or you read online or you see on the news, everyone's talking about the cost of power. So you can assume that you're probably going to be hit with a fairly hefty bill.
It's important to definitely have that safe buffer there. So you could go with it as a generic 10%, or if you found that your bill hasn't actually changed too much, you might want to just round it up. But regularly checking your bank transactions and seeing what you're being charged so you can actually track and monitor how much is it going up by and for how long has it been going up by. So staying in control, staying informed is incredibly important. But also when you're on that phone call saying, look, I found a better deal, ask them to have a look at it over your usage. And ask them if you are on the right plan. Is there a better, more competitive plan available depending on the time of day that you're using appliances? So, for example, if you've got people at home all day, using washing machines in the middle of the day because you've got young children, that usage is going to impact your bill. You might be able to find a way of maybe going to an off-peak time where the usage rate changes and you can do your washing, for example, in the evening. So that phone call is incredibly important to help you get your bills, I guess, back in control again and knowing, okay, well, our bill's gone up 15%, but now we've got a few hacks that will mean that the bill will come back down, say, 10%. So it just keeps you back in the driving seat, as well as obviously shopping around and asking for a better deal with your current provider.
All right, so in a moment, we will come back and we will talk about some of those hacks and ideas to get usage down and to save a bit of money. Okay, so we are talking about power bills and how to try and kind of get them under control, I suppose, if that's even possible. We know that there's a part of the bill that you can't do anything about. There's another part that you can do about because it is the usage side of the bill, how do you reduce your usage?
There are so many different things you can do to reduce your usage. And obviously it depends whether you're talking about winter or summer. But let's start with winter. Insulation is so important, but even something as simple as a door snake, because of those drafts.
Yep.
So I know they're really daggy, not particularly attractive, but a door snake will eliminate all that draft. Next thing is things like curtains and blinds. You know those really daggy blankets? You can buy them, I think, from Harvey Norman. They're about $90. They are, you literally plug them in. They're not an electric blanket. They're like an electric cover that you put on you. So apparently the energy, I don't have the exact stats behind me, so my apologies, but apparently they are the most efficient way of warming yourself up without turning on the heating. They use a minimal amount of energy. And someone from a major energy provider actually told me this. It was a discussion from a while ago, but things like that are just incredibly important. Obviously, having a shorter shower, because when you're having a hot shower uses a huge amount of energy. You've got things like hot water bottles, a good old hot water bottle. I grew up as a child with a hot water bottle. That's incredibly cost effective. You've also got things like clothesline, adjusting your thermostat. So there's like the perfect zone when it comes to your thermostat, and that's between 18 to 22. So every time you go a degree out of those zones, your energy usage skyrockets.
Either way, so if you go down to 17 in summer. Okay.
So you want to kind of keep in that safe zone.
And that's a comfortable range, isn't it? 18 to 22, that's pretty nice.
That's what I sort of drive in the car with. My car's around 21. It's like a comfort. That's, you're not sweating, but you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Things like getting rid of those halogen lights and putting in LED lights. They may cost a little bit more upfront, but they last so much longer. So I believe like the annual cost is $5 for an LED light versus $102 a year for a halogen light.
And they do seem to last forever.
They last such a long time. I hate changing light bulbs, and I know, all blonde jokes aside, I
wasn't going to make them. I got the eyebrow from your last episode, and it's put the fear of God into me. Those light bulbs, we have lived in our house now for 3 years. We have never changed a light bulb while we've been there.
You've got LEDs.
It appears so. Yes, we do.
And we can do what our parents told us to do. Put on a jumper.
Oh, yes. But then what about in summer when there's only so many items of clothing you can take off before someone calls the police?
Open a window.
Yes, that is a very good piece of advice.
Even a fan, like this. I feel like we've become a little bit entitled to luxury. I have friends who will put on the air conditioner, to 16 degrees to get a good night's sleep. Do we really need to be doing that? It's not good for the planet. It's not financially responsible. My partner, Tom, is really naughty. He will put the fire on with gas in our home. We've got a gas fireplace, and then he'll leave the door open. And I'm like, you're heating the universe up.
Well, and then on the other hand, you have my brother who refuses to turn on his heater or his aircon at any point. And he lives in Canberra. So they have some pretty extreme kind of temperatures.
Yeah.
And so in summer, you can be driving along with him in the car and it's like 38 degrees and you're begging to turn on the aircon. And he'll just wind down the window for you. Like, no, that's not the same.
Fresh air.
No, do not side with him on this one. I'm firmly in favour of the aircon. Smart meters. A lot of houses now have smart meters.
Most homes, yes.
And I didn't realise this, just quite how they operated until fairly recently when we kept running out of hot water every day. By the time the kids had had a bath and a couple of other things kind of during the day, by the time we went to have a shower at night, there was no hot water left. And it was because we had a new hot water service that was operating with the smart meter to only heat the water between midnight and like 6 a.m. or something. And so I actually had to get on the phone to our electricity provider and say, look, this is what's happened. I know it's kind of counterintuitive in terms of trying to save a bit of money, but we need hot water. Can we change to a plan where our hot water service is actually going to heat up during the day, kind of heat up 24/7 when it's required? Because it's one of those things that, especially when you've got
young kids.
And especially, we realised that we changed to this new plan when we ran out of hot water when like a gastro bug was sweeping through the house. Right when you do not want to just have cold water when you've got kids that need a shower because it's just a god-awful mess at midnight and there is no hot water. And you're like, What do I do?
That's traumatic.
Yeah. So straight on the phone the next day to the power company. But that can go both ways then. That the fact that you have that flexibility to actually kind of specify when you want power supplied to things. Inside the house, then you've got a bit more control though as well, just turning off the TV at the wall and kind of things like that.
Nothing on standby.
That's hard.
It is hard.
My power switch for the TV is a long way kind of round behind.
Yeah, I've got to go. It's an occupational hazard to try and turn my TV off. However, a lot of appliances these days don't use a huge amount of energy in standby mode as well. So it's worth checking the energy rating of your appliances when you go to upgrade them.
Yeah, the energy rating is pretty important actually,
Really
particularly when you're looking at, say, white goods and things.
Oh, yeah.
Because they will not only tell you then how much power they use, but how much water and everything they use as well. And so it's really kind of shopping around using the comparison sites that we talked about.
And also the technology has changed so much. We have a Samsung washing machine and a Samsung dryer. And I believe when I bought them, they were sort of the most environmentally efficient washer and dryers you could possibly use.
And what about solar panels?
Yes.
A lot of houses now have solar panels. There's been a boom in recent years.
Every time we get on a plane, I love looking out the window and seeing all the solar panels.
Australia has, I've forgotten the stat. I shouldn't start a sentence kind of promising a stat and then not actually being able to deliver it. But the number of households and businesses that have taken up solar in Australia in recent years have been quite incredible. Does that help to reduce the costs? It's a big outlay initially.
Huge. Look, I think you need to really run the numbers. It can take years before you've broken even, you could say. So, and obviously it depends. Not every house is available to have solar power. So, and obviously the costs of how many solar panels you can fit on your house and how much energy you actually use is not really as straightforward as people think. And we actually had someone come out to our house and jump on the roof and give us some quotes. And it was actually going to take us 8 years before we would break even. It was fairly expensive. And also a lot of people don't realize solar panels, the technology is obviously incredible, but I didn't know this. They actually, over a certain period of time, wear out. They need to be replaced. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and apparently that's the kind of the next wave of
generation,
of kind of waste and everything as well, that suddenly there is a big demand for the ability to recycle and reuse old solar panels.
Yeah, so look, I've got friends who've done it and it's been great. And obviously they barely have a power bill. But you do need to get someone to come and actually assess your house, show you the numbers, and you need to just sit down and work out whether it's worth it, because it is that $20,000 solar panel, money may be better off going towards the mortgage or... Yeah.
Well, look, we've covered a lot here. Power bills are a tricky one for me because it feels like there is only so much you can do in many cases, particularly families as well. You're always going to need to kind of be able to have a hot shower, to be able to kind of keep the kids cool, to be able to cook a meal kind of thing. You're always going to need a certain amount of electricity. There are some things you can do to reduce it. Some of the things that we looked at, obviously, how you pay your bill, whether you kind of change to weekly, monthly, and this all comes back to the budget then.
Yeah.
Making sure that you are budgeting for it and budgeting for increasing power bills because we know how steep it has been. Keep in mind the seasons, winter, summer, and the increase potentially in the demand there. Check your direct debits to see how much you're actually paying so that you can kind of budget for that, round up as required to give you a bit of a buffer.
And some energy providers, they even have fixed plans as well, where it's a set amount per month.
Yep. Jump on the phone to your energy provider and talk about the different payment options. And if you can get onto something then that provides you with some kind of certainty every month, then that is going to be easier to budget for. Comparison sites as well. Give yourself the ammunition you need for your conversation with your energy provider. And around the house, invest in a door snake.
Oh, yes. Bunnings. Head to Bunnings.
To keep the draft out. Consider your heating. Consider your cooling. Shorter showers.
Put a jumper on.
Put a jumper on. Goodness me. Buy a door snake and put a jumper on. It feels like that's kind of advice from the 50s that is still applicable today.
Very much so.
All right. It feels like we've covered quite a bit there. Next episode, we are going to go from kind of talking about power bills, which has the tendency to get you down a little bit, to something that is fun, something that everyone looks forward to, and that is a holiday. Holidays. And we are going to look at how to afford the holiday, how to save for it, what to do when you're on the holiday so that you don't come home with a massive debt that kind of makes you regret your holiday. We're going to cover all of that next time.
We want you to be going on guilt-free holidays.
Oh, guilt-free holidays. Maybe that's the title of the episode. There we go. Thank you very much for listening to How Do They Afford That? Remember to hit subscribe or follow and leave us a review as well. Next week, all about holidays. Do not miss that one.